Yo, what's up, guys? This is going to be the first installment of this show. It's going to be, with Jack Attack MMA, who I have here as a guest. So make sure to, check him out on YouTube. He does have a YouTube channel, and he's going to be doing the show with me where we basically break down, the previous card, talk about potential matchup stuff like that, going forward. So what's up, Jack? What's up, man?
What's up, dude? Thank you for having me on. Yeah, appreciate the collab and shout out all the viewers.
Yeah, dude. I mean, what do you think about that card? First of all, like probably, one of the best cards in recent memory, right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was kind of slow starting. There were a few good performances earlier on, but yeah, there was some huge upsets towards the end of the night. Pretty solid card all in all.
Yeah, so we're just gonna get right into it with the first fight with Amir Albazi versus Zhalgas Zhumagulov. What did you think about that fight?
I thought it was a pretty decent fight. Albazi clearly the better grappler of the two, and yeah, I watched a few Zalgas fights leading into that. Initially, I was leaning in that direction, but I watched his fight with Tagir and Bekov, and he gave up a lot of takedowns in that fight and won a very sketchy decision. And yeah, rewatched the Piver fight, which people thought was controversial too, and I thought Piver won that. I went with the younger upstart in Amir Albazi, and yeah, pretty solid performance, and I think he's going to do pretty well going forward at flyweight.
And so with Zhalgas, like he's 2-0 now or 0-2 now, but he's fought like two decent guys. You think he'll get another fight or?
I think he probably will get at least one more fight in the UFC. And yeah, I don't know who they're going to give him at this point. There isn't like a whole lot of flyweights on the roster, but I'm sure there's Zaruk Adashev, for example, who took another L last week. They could potentially pair him with that guy if they're planning on keeping him on the roster at 3-3. But yeah, slim pickings for Zaruk at this point. Maybe Jerome Rivera, something like that.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I mean, he won the title at Fight Nights Global. I mean, maybe I would give him one more fight, but it's just like it seems like they don't really give a lot of flyweights a lot of opportunities, to lose, and he doesn't really have that fun of a style. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think like the matchups you said, those would be winnable matchups, but yeah, it's hard to kind of lose two in a row at flyweight and stick around. And yeah, Yoshi. I mean, I don't know, man. I thought that Amir definitely won the fight, but I'm not sure. I mean, did you think that there could have been a robbery there?
No, I've got to disagree, and yeah, if you go back and watch his Tagir and Bekov fight at Fight Nights Global, like literally one of the more mind blowing judges' decisions I've ever seen, and that kind of makes sense that he would feel robbed going into the Piver fight because I don't think he earned the nod in that one too, but I think he got used to kind of earning victories that he probably didn't deserve at that point. So I don't know. Maybe he'll come back a bit better after suffering two back to back. But I mean, there's Tyson Nam coming off a loss that could potentially do that rematch in the UFC, but I wouldn't really be too hyped on that one. Maybe they'll give him Cody Durden or one of these young upstarts and see how he performs against them.
Yeah, that's another interesting one. Yeah, because Cody Durden lost that fight to Jimmy Flick. So, but what do you think about Amir Albazi? You think he's a good prospect?
Yeah, I do think he's pretty solid, and I think he's got quite a lot of potential going forward. Trains out of a good gym and appears to have like a pretty solid grappling acumen. We've only seen him take the one L to Jose Shorty Torres as well, which another guy who, like you said, you can't take too many L's of flyweight in the UFC, and he got cut. So, but he's a good fighter, and yeah, he's racked up 5 extra wins since then. So he's probably going to get a move up in the top 10 next. Maybe they do like a grappler versus grappler matchup, Albazi versus Flick or something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking someone that fought recently. What do you think about if Amir Albazi fought Sumadarji?
Oh yeah, that could be a potentially good one because Madaji definitely more of a striking specialist, and his one loss in the UFC so far has been via submission. So that's kind of a striker versus grappler one. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, those are two guys. I mean, it seems like flyweight does have a few guys that are coming up. Like I know that guy you're talking about, Ulan Bekov, just joined the UFC too. So But yeah, in terms of that one, I mean, I didn't think it was like necessarily the most entertaining fight personally, but yeah, I agree. I mean, I thought Albazi dominated, and he does, look like he could be pretty good. So, in terms of that fight, like I don't know if they'll give Zaugas another fight, like I was saying though. But yeah, you gave some pretty good matchups with that one, and then in the next one, I mean, one guy we already kind of know what happened with them with Nick Lentz, but what do you think about that fight with him versus Movsar Evloev?
This was one of the more entertaining fights on the card for me because there was a lot of really fun grappling transitions, and Evloev's just always a guy that I really enjoy watching, and Nick Lentz is just a typical action fighter as well. So I do like watching Nick Lentz fights, and yeah, I expected Evloev to win. I did think that Nick Lentz was being a little disrespected on the betting line. But that's like back-to-back fights now where we've seen Movsar Evloev like find himself in like a really sketchy position early on, and it looked like I legitimately thought it was a wrap. I was saying like, oh my god, Nick Lentz is about to submit Movsar Evloev. I couldn't believe it, but great composure under duress and managed to work his way out of it like he did in the Grundy fight. And yeah, I think he's got a lot of potential moving forward. And he was saying that all he wants now is to be actually tested against ranked opponents. So looking forward to seeing that too.
Yeah, man. And then talking about Nick Lentz, you have to give him some credit, right? Because basically, he was saying he came into that fight with like 40% vision, and he was able to, make it pretty close. I know one judge gave it to Nick Lentz. I thought that was kind of strange a little bit. I didn't think it was a split decision, but Nick Lentz did have him in trouble with a couple of those guillotines, like you said, and it seemed like like the striking, like Evloev was dominating, so maybe the vision did help, but it's like Lentz really was trying to get those guillotines, man. He definitely is a warrior, you know what I mean? But I know he said he was gonna retire. So what do you think about that? You think like or like what do you think about Nick Lentz as a whole, like his career and everything?
I mean, I think he had a really good run, and he'll be able to sit back now knowing that even though maybe he hasn't won some of them, he's like fought some of the best fighters on the planet. And not only that, he had like a really long run when you think about it. It lasted from UFC 107, I think it was, all the way to UFC 257. So he's been with the organization, the top MMA organization, for so many years. And even though he never really became like an elite fighter, he held on for a hell of a long time, and he probably made a lot of good money doing so. And I also heard that he made quite a bit of money on the stock market as well. So, he can probably sit pretty for the rest of his days. So, all the best to him.
Yeah, and then with Evloev, you said you liked him as a prospect. So do you think that you agree with him? You think he's ready for like a top 15 guy?
Yeah, I do. And looking over the rankings, I'm thinking some of the matchups that will be good for him going forward. Cub Swanson's coming off a win. They could maybe do Evloev versus Swanson. And I think that's a 2-fight win streak now for Cub, isn't it? So, yeah, I think that's, Cub obviously before that lost to a lot of ranked guys. So maybe that could be like a one to see who gets back into the top rankings, or maybe like an Evloev versus Sadiq Yusuf or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. That one you just said, him versus Cub. I never really thought about that, but that's actually that's an interesting fight for sure, because it's also kind of like that old school versus new school thing too, And then, I mean, I guess if the UFC wanted to give him another type of guy, they could give him like that, the Andre Fili test type thing. But I feel like Nick Lentz is at a similar level, so I do kind of agree. I mean, if he got, I don't. You think like if he got someone like a Calvin Kattar, that would be way too big of a step up?
Um, I don't know. I'm not sure if the UFC would go for that kind of thing. Maybe they would at this point. Maybe Evloev's proved himself enough, but maybe they'd consider that still too much of a gap. But they would probably, I think they would think that that's a winnable fight for Evloev, so maybe they would try and make that one.
Yeah. You could give him like, if you wanted to give him or maybe like a Dan Ige, but I know Ige has a fight lined up, right? Coming up, I believe. But
yeah, I can't remember who it's against, but yeah, I'm pretty sure Ige is booked right now.
But yeah, I do agree. I think Evloev, like, I mean, he looks good, but honestly, like me personally, man, I feel like if he wants to fight like in the top 10 or top 5, he should probably go to 135. But I do feel like he could compete with those guys, but I just don't know if he has the size to beat a guy like a Max Holloway or someone like that. But yeah, I definitely think he's a beast for sure. But yeah, man, with this next fight, like fuck, man, Marcin Prachnio, Khalil Roundtree, I was surprised by this one. I mean, what do you think about it?
I mean, yeah, I legitimately couldn't believe what I was seeing at the time. Yeah, I thought that this was going to be a no-brainer. You know, Prachnio, 3 fights in the UFC, all 3 KO losses. Obviously, Khalil was coming off of a layoff, which is always a bit shaky, and he was coming off of a loss to Ion Cutelaba himself. But man, he's always been a powerhouse. We're talking about a guy who's got a first-round KO over Gokhan Saki, you know, like a legendary kickboxer. Um, but yeah, he went out there and at first, I was thinking, you know, he spent his last couple of years at Thailand. Maybe he's going to start slow and kind of, you know, heat up as the rounds go on. But he just pretty much went out there and just straight up lost a range kicking battle to Marcin Prachnio somehow. And, you know, he had that one moment in the second round where he rocked him, but he didn't even, like, seem to have any type of killer instinct in there. Just sat back after that and just let the fight slip through his fingers. It was one of the more bizarre performances I've ever seen, honestly.
Yeah, man. I mean, isn't that kind of like Khalil Roundtree's career in a nutshell, though, right? It's like sometimes he shows up, he knocks out Gokhan Saki, and then sometimes he shows up, he can't even beat someone like that, right? So, but I mean, do you actually think that Marcin Prachnio, like, you think that's gonna like make him jump up in the division, or you think that was kind of just a fluky win because of Roundtree's performance?
Um, yeah, I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't really make Marcin's stock go up anymore in my eyes because I kind of feel like Khalil never showed up whatsoever. Maybe there was ring rust involved, but you know he's been at Tiger Muay Thai for a long time. The fact that he was getting out kicked by a guy like Marcin Prachnio was like really surprising to me. And like Khalil was before he came back, he was talking about retirement, so maybe he's just already mentally checked out. But supposedly he signed a new deal with the UFC, so I mean, I don't know who you're going to give him moving forward. A guy like that, Mamute.
You're gonna pay back for the fifth time.
Yeah, potentially. I don't know. What else do you? Where do you go from here? Mamute, Antigulov, something along
What
those
about
lines. What about who? Ike Villanueva.
yeah?
I mean, yeah, that they could potentially do that one too. Yeah. Yeah, I do actually like that matchup on paper now. Yeah, thinking about it, both coming off a win. Um, yeah, they should book that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then for Khalil, like you said, he just signed that new contract. But I mean, 4-5 in the UFC, it's like he's another one that it's hard to kind of pick a matchup for, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like I would suggest Justin Ledet, but I'm pretty sure it has been cut recently, so I don't know if that would be one that they'd want to do. That Andreas Michailidis, that Greek guy, I believe is from Greece. Yeah, they could potentially do that one.
Oh, Mikkel, yeah, the guy that fought uh, the one dude that lost to Jim Crew, right?
Bukowskis, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like sometimes Khalil shows up and looks really good, so it's hard to like totally write him off in the next fight. But that's a guy that yeah, you have to kind of put in the category now. Like you could never bet that guy or trust him with anything. So, but man, I mean, this next fight too, like another person that's untrustworthy with Sarah McMahon. You know, she to me won the first 2 rounds and then got submitted in the third round against Juliana Pena. So, what did you think about that fight?
Well, I'll be honest. If I had stuck with my original pick, it really would have been a depressing fight for me. But you know, literally, I believe it was about 30 minutes before the card began when I was making my prediction picture on Twitter. I decided I just couldn't put my trust in Sarah McMahon to go out there and push the pressure and the pace for 15 minutes without slipping up and getting submitted or out hustled. And that's exactly what she did. So I kind of felt vilified in switching my pick at the last minute to Juliana Pena in that spot because of that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's at this point, that's just pretty much typical, isn't it, of Sarah McMahon at this point? And yeah, solid win for Juliana Pena. I think she was talking about how Amanda Nunes has been ducking her. I think that's a bit of a stretch, honestly, but maybe she's if she can rack up 2 or 3 more solid wins, she could maybe get to that spot.
Yeah, and then with Sarah McMahon, I mean, you think that she's going to come back, or
Who knows at this point? 40 years of age, it's definitely a young person's sport. But if she were to come back, maybe she could take on like a Sarah Moras if she's still on the roster.
yeah,
Or a
I, mean,
Sarah,
I would take her at that fight.
yeah, or a Sarah Alpar, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's people she could beat. Like what if you gave her like a prospect like you think she could beat like Tracy Cortez or Julia Avila or something like that?
Yeah, like that's the thing. She could probably still beat some solid competition, but I don't know, man. At this stage, she's kind of untrustworthy. Maybe I think Carol Rose has got a fight booked, so maybe give her like the loser of that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and then with Pena, I mean, so you're saying you think she needs like a couple more fights, so like top 5 fight, and then maybe one more or something to get a title shot.
Yeah, I believe Ketlin Vieira, didn't she pick up a win recently?
Yeah, over Eubanks.
Yeah, so maybe they could do that fight, Pena versus Vieira, or yeah, something like that. Aspen Lad when she returns from her injury.
Yeah, they already set that one up before. I remember her versus Aspen. So
Yeah, I think that's a good stylistic matchup. I think that would be a fun one, honestly.
yeah, and then moving on to the next fight. This fight was not really a fun fight to watch, but it was an impressive fight for one guy. I was kind of impressed with Brad Tavares' takedown defense. The way his striking looked. I mean, I felt like he kind of had a bounce back performance here, and bad performance from Carlos Jr. though. Man, couldn't get the takedown. He had a couple moments in the striking. I think that he did win a round on all 3 scorecards, but just couldn't get the takedowns, and Tavares was able to win the striking. So, were you surprised by that one?
No, because on paper it was that this one was kind of always like a bit of a coin flip to me. Both kind of fought similar kind of opposition in the past before. Both kind of floating around outside that top 15 range. Both also coming off of like a 1 year layoff, and I just seen it as like kind of basic striker versus grappler type of matchup, and I typically tend to favour the grappler in that spot. And Antonio Carlos Jr. looked a unit at the weigh-ins, and yeah, I thought he was going to be able to get him down, so I picked Antonio Carlos Jr. Didn't come through. I think it was 1-1 going into the third. I think Carlos Jr. got enough control time in the first to steal that round, but you just couldn't get him down and couldn't execute the game plan. And Brad Tavares gets back in the win column, and Antonio Carlos Jr. extends his losing streak to 3, unfortunately.
So for you, would that be in ACJ's last chance in the UFC, or would you give him another fight?
I would give him one more fight. I think a good stylistic matchup for Antonio Carlos Jr. Would maybe be Brendan Allen.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one because Brendan Allen is coming off a bad loss too, where he took a lot of damage. So
Yeah, he had a lot of hype too, and he's a pretty. He's not too bad on the feet, but Sean Strickland obviously levels above, and he's got solid wrestling. Obviously, Antonio Carlos Jr. on paper the better BJJ practitioner, but hasn't been able to execute recently. So maybe they would do that type of fight. Who did they just book Zach Cummins against? Sam Alvey, I believe it was, didn't they? That one makes no sense. That makes no sense to me. Zach Cummins coming off a big win and Alvey coming off of a pretty big skid, but maybe they could give Carlos Jr. the loser of that one.
yeah, I mean, Avi is coming off. He didn't lose his last fight, I guess you could say, but yeah.
yeah.
And then with Brad Tavares, I mean, he snapped that. He had kind of 2 bad fights, but Israel Adesanya, he was able to go 5 rounds, and then obviously got destroyed by Edmund. But do you think like he's still around that top 15, or it was just a good performance on the night for him?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell because of like they've both come off a layoff. maybe they give him another grappler, another guy who's just got back in the win column himself, Akhmedov, or they could, if they want to test him against like another solid prospect, they could give him Muradov.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good fight. That one.
Yeah, because like Muradov isn't going to be coming to. He's going to give Brad Tavares the kind of fight that he wants. I guess he's going to strike with him at least. Yeah.
Nah, Jimmy, that one is gonna be. I'm pretty sure Alvi is going back down to 185. But yeah, guys, thanks everyone for being in the chat. I see a few people, in the chat. Curry Ninja, Justin Jr., Jimmy the Drunk. So shout out to all you guys for sure. And yeah, man. I mean, this next fight, I think a lot of people kind of went how a lot of people thought. But for Vol, I mean, you have to give him credit for even stepping in there wanting to fight. But yeah, he kind of got dominated a little bit by Arman Sarukian. So are you on the Arman Sarukian train? You think he's going to be a future contender?
Yeah, like ever since I seen him in his debut against Islam Makhachev, I kind of thought that he had like a lot of potential, and obviously picked up some solid wins since then. OAM and Davy Hamos, and yeah, I mean this was like a bizarre turn of events that just happened like a day before the fight, and nobody really expected this kind of matchup. And yeah, all credit to Frivola because I believe he could have got like his show and win money and just went home, but instead he opted to fight Arman Sarukian, took the L on the chin. I still think that he has a lot of potential moving forward, but just that's just freak circumstance. That fight was really never meant to happen for Frivola, but I think he can definitely beat guys moving forward. And Arman Sarukian maybe he gets like a real test after this.
Yeah, I saw Armin called out Ally Quinta. I mean, I think that would be a good matchup for him, but I'm not sure Al is really going to be winning that fight.
Yeah, I would agree. I think honestly, I think there's more of a chance that I'll get in the corner fight than there is of Sarukian getting that fight. I don't think they're going to go with that one. Maybe they give him one of these, guys who were just coming through, like Demiris Magulov, who's kind of like off the radar because he's picked up some wins, but he's not very active. You've got that Kutadalidze and Gamrot had a really close fight. Other than that, I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I actually do feel like I agree with you. I think Armin, like, he could potentially, he's only like 23 or 24 years old, too, right? He's really young. So, yeah, man. I mean, I don't, you think of like, if they gave him a guy like Ally Quinta, you agree with me, though. You think he would you think he's ready for that level, right?
Yeah, I do think he would beat a guy like Alakin, and I think there's a lot more upside in him taking that type of fight than there is to like a Demiris Magulov, who is probably as difficult of a fight, but without like the ranking or the name to go with it.
Yeah. What do you think about this one? Jimmy said, you think that they're Sarukian versus Makachev? Would you want to see that again?
Yeah, I do think I agree that it will probably happen one day. But I do think it'll happen maybe a bit further down the line when they both like pick up a few more wins and get ranked. Yeah.
Yeah, and then now we're gonna be moving on to the main card. So some big fights coming up here, and the first one, it was Amanda Ribas versus Marina Rodriguez, and yeah, man, I mean, it seemed like everyone was kind of coordinating Amanda Ribas here to get the win and keep moving on in the division, but Marina Rodriguez got the knockout. So what did you think about that one?
I'll be honest, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, shout out Justin UFC Bro Picks. That was a solid bet that he placed there. I did not expect this to happen whatsoever. Obviously, we've seen Marina Rodriguez come in and fight grapplers before and get taken down. And I thought that like Amanda not only had like the takedown game, but like the jiu-jitsu game to be able to get her out of there too. So everything was going according to plan as far as I was concerned in the first round. But man, in that second round, she didn't get the takedown and she just got annihilated on the feet pretty much. Obviously, she had that one blemish on her record already 5 years ago to Poliana Viana, but that was 5 years ago, and I kind of like wrote that off in my mind. But man, I'm kind of honestly concerned about Amanda Ribas' chin moving forward now after seeing that. But Marina Rodriguez absolutely solid win and just stole all of Amanda's hype as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. It is kind of like you have to question Amanda's chin a little bit, right? Because it was a weird stoppage too. Like Herb Dean definitely let Amanda take a little bit of extra damage, I thought.
Oh yeah, and I picked Amanda in that spot, so I'm usually the first one going crazy at her, but I was kind of happy that he let that one fly a little, if I'm honest. But like looking back in retrospect and being objective, yeah, it was clearly over when Amanda was grabbing Marina's ankle and she just pulled free, and she went face down like real bad. She was clearly out of it. So yeah,
Yeah.
um,
I mean,
yeah.
me personally watching that fight, I feel like I'm not. I don't think Kibosh. You can't say like she's a fraud or something like that. But I mean, just that performance was really very odd to me. I mean, even in the first round when she got the takedown, it's like she never tried to pass the guard or anything. It seems like maybe she. I don't know if she underestimated Marina, where she thought she could just get the takedown so easily in every round that she could just give away or not give away because she was winning the first round, but not really try to pass the guard or do much of anything on top. So, I mean, I think she regrets that in hindsight. She probably should have, tried to threaten and get a finish because she obviously was, a lot worse on the feet than Marina was. So the second round, Marina kind of exploited her, and like you said, her chin is a question mark now, and I actually feel like she should get kind of, a significant step down in competition. But what do you think?
Yeah, I would honestly agree after seeing that performance. And I think at one point she was originally scheduled to fight Michelle Waterson. I think that would have been like a much more favorable matchup for her. But at the same time, Michelle Waterson, although she's not known as like a power striker, she's definitely still like a fairly decent striker. So and a okay grappler too. So maybe that's one that they'll look to rebook, or Mallory Martin potentially. Uh, that type of matchup.
Yeah, yeah. See, I feel like that's a good level for because I mean you've seen her like against other like mid tier grapplers like Emily Whitmire, and she was able to kind of dominate. So, I mean, if they want to build her up, I think she needs to kind of fight maybe two or three of those girls, and then just try to jump like right into like a top five and see if she can kind of get the win there. Because I just don't know if she's gonna be able to rack like a bunch of wins together against really good competition. But Marina Rodriguez, I mean, she is a little bit on the older side. But she's actually had a fairly impressive UFC career when you look at it like in whole. Beating Amanda now, she beat Tisha Torres and had a split decision with Carla Esparza. So, would you give her like a top five opponent next?
Um, yeah, probably. I think she probably deserves it at this point, but who that would be, I'm not sure. Honestly, she kind of reminds me of like a bit of a longer Joanna in a way. So I think that would be like a really fun stylistic matchup. And Joanna's coming off of a loss too. I'm not sure if they're looking to rebook. Have the booked a strawweight title fight recently or not?
I don't think so. I don't think they. I think they were like talking about Rose versus Wheelie or whatever, but they were saying that like she did. I don't know. They were trying to like pressure her to take the fight. It feels like, but
Yeah, so if they're not looking to do the Zhang and Jacek rematch, they could potentially do her versus Rodriguez. I think that would be a fun stylistic matchup for Marina. Or if they wanted to give her like one more like kind of grappling test, they could give Mackenzie Dern or something like that.
yeah, you're saying who versus Mackenzie did Burita?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I feel like Marina deserves a higher opponent than that, but I get what you mean
probably does. Yeah,
just the grappler thing, yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so like I don't know about Marina though. I don't know if like if she fought Joanna, I kind of feel like Joanna would kind of dominate that. But I mean, I kind of picked against Marina quite a few times. So like I mean I picked Tisha Torres. So I mean I feel like maybe Marina is a little bit underrated in my eyes. But you think she could actually compete with that level?
Well, I feel like it's kind of like a now or never type of situation for her. I don't know who else she would fight outside of that. Maybe like a Zhao Nanyan.
Yeah, that's what Jimmy the Drunk just said. That one right there. Yeah,
Oh, he did. Yeah,
that'd be an interesting one too. Or even she could fight like a Claudia, too, someone like that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I just feel like if she fights someone like a Joanna or like even like I mean I feel like Tatiana Suarez is obviously like a horrible matchup for her, but I don't know if she could compete with that top of the division, but I do think she probably like earned the chance. Like you said, it's now or never, right? So yeah, if she fights one of those girls, I mean, we'll see what happens. But the next fight, Makhmud Muradov taking on Andrew Sanchez, and man, I mean, Muradov got another third round finish. This time it was flying knee, some nice punches. So, what do you think his ceiling is? Are you impressed by him?
Yeah, I am kind of impressed by him. I remember, like, I went back to do a tape study for this fight, and I was happy to watch his debut against Kiriko again because I think when I watched that a few years ago, I don't know how, but I thought that Kiriko actually earned the nod. But going back and watching it again, it was clear that Mahmoud was like the obvious winner of that fight. Um, and yeah, back to back third round finishes, Trevor Smith and now Andrew Sanchez. And Andrew Sanchez, in my opinion, somewhat kind of underrated at middleweight, but that's what I would consider like your basic gatekeeper type of test. Um, so yeah, I think he moves forward now to kind of like a higher ranked guy, pretty much in that division.
Yeah. And then so like what do you think he's going to be able to fight like a top 15 or another kind of guy like Andrew Sanchez?
Yeah, maybe like a virgin guy. That I mean, there is some interesting people coming through at middleweight now. I'm not sure if he's ranked yet or not, but Sean Strickland, I think we mentioned that one earlier. Yeah, or um, I was going to say Weidman, but I don't know if they'd look to do that one, honestly.
Yeah, what about him versus Omari?
Yeah, I do think that will be a good one as well because I feel like it's pretty evident that Muradov's striking's like really, really legit, and we need to see him tested against more grapplers at this point. I think Trevor Smith got him down momentarily, so I was kind of hesitant with him fighting Andrew Sanchez in this one, but he did like do a really good job of using footwork and circling off and getting off the cage. But I do think Akhmedov will present like Andrew Sanchez never really went for takedowns. Akhmedov, you can almost guarantee, is going to go for the takedown, so I think that will be a tough test for him. Yeah.
Another fight that I don't think they should do it just because they're two kind of prospects, but I would love to see it is him versus Puna, man. That would be a good fight for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I think Puna's stock rose a lot with the last one. I think that will be a good one. I was also thinking. I know he's only had one win in the UFC so far, but I think he's booked to fight again. So they could maybe do if he picks up another KO win, they could do that. Dricus Duplessis guy.
Yeah, the one he fought Perez, right?
Yeah, he fought Perez, and I think he's got a fight booked. I can't remember who it's against, but maybe if he were to win one more, maybe they'd give him that matchup too.
Even that fight would be interesting. I mean, I think he'd be a big favorite, but what if he fought Dalcha, who fought Perez?
Yeah, they could do that. Like they've got the same opponent connection there. But after Dolce's last win, I mean, he got it done, but there's definitely some questions there for him at 185 with all that muscle mass. He was like hyperventilating on the stool at the end of the first round, but he got through it and he's definitely a big physical guy. And we've seen him outstruck by really good strikers in the UFC by obviously Ankalaev, who's like a top tier light heavyweight. But yeah, I would like to see his grappling tested by like a big physical guy like Dolce. And yeah, I think he's got the striking edge in that one, so I think that would be kind of a fair matchup to make.
Yeah. And yeah, this next fight, man, I was excited for this fight, and I actually liked the fight. I mean, I thought it was actually one of the better fights on the card. Besides, I mean, the main card actually had a lot of good fights, but Yoan Carterwood against Jessica I mean, JoJo basically went out there and dominated the fight, in my opinion. I mean, I feel like she kind of at times was a little bit sloppy, like where she was closing the distance unnecessarily. But whenever they were at range, I mean, JoJo was dominating the striking. I felt like she looked really good, really out volume just guy and put a beating on her. So it was a good fight from JoJo, and I kind of feel like it kind of put her close to where she was before she fought Jennifer Maia. But what do you think about it?
Yeah, solid win for JoJo. Usually when I pick a win fight, she loses, so it was good to see her get back in the win column. And yeah, she pretty much dominated her on the feet. Just had so much more volume and output, and just throwing like the kitchen sink at her the whole time. It was. Yeah, I agree. It was one of the funner fights on the card. And going forward, I know she said after the fact that she would take pretty much any fight that would get her back to the title shot. So maybe they look to do her versus Andrade, or maybe they look to do her versus Lauren Murphy, another girl who is potentially deserving of the next spot.
Yeah, her versus Lauren Murphy. That would be a fight I would like to see because Lauren Murphy, she already fought Roxy, who is also at Syndicate. So, there's something there a little bit with that, and that would be an interesting fight for sure. I mean, her versus Jessica Andrade. I mean, I would like to see it, but I mean, the first time Andrade won in the first round against Joanne Carterwood, so
Yeah.
I don't know if Andrade would want to take that fight again, but yeah, that would be another interesting one. I mean, at 125, I still feel like obviously we'd have to favor Jessica, but yeah, JoJo. I mean, I feel like that was probably the best performance of her UFC career because Jessica, at least, I mean, a lot of people shit on her, and she obviously hasn't had the best performances recently, but she did fight for the title. I mean, she beat a girl like Caitlin Chukagian. So, I mean, JoJo, in my opinion, looked pretty good. And so, I mean, I don't know if she could just jump right into the title fight next, but yeah, I agree with you. She could probably get a number one contender fight. And as far as Jessica, I mean, I don't know, man. I thought she's just her last two fights. She hasn't looked very good at all. She's had a lot of like issues outside the octagon. Where I think this is like her first fight she fought with no gallbladder, and I don't know. So I'm not sure what's really going to happen with her going forward. But I'm not even really like that enthused to watch her fight again. But what do you think? You think they're going to give her, like a low level girl?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. It's kind of like hard to get up for a Jessica I fight at this point. The here we go evil chance is slowly disappearing as we speak. But yeah, I think you gave her another girl whose kind of stock's never been lower. Andrea KGB Lee. I think she's coming off of like 3 back-to-back losses. Also, they could maybe give her that one, or maybe even like a bigger step down at this point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing with Jessica I too, it's like it seems like it's a motivation thing too, right? So it's partly in her court, in my opinion, if she's gonna fight again. But I do think the UFC would probably give her another fight just because she has some name value. So I do think both these girls will probably stay at the UFC. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really super excited about Jessica I's next fight. But man, I mean, something I was excited for was the co-main event, and Michael Chandler, man, went out there, got that first round knockout. So super impressive performance. What did you think about that?
Yeah, like I predicted Hooker to win this one. I wasn't. It's not that I had like huge doubts about whether Chandler was like a top guy. My biggest concern for him was his age at this point. Arguably starting to leave his prime, just getting to the UFC. But yeah, came in there and did what not many people do. Wrecked Dan Hooker inside of one round, and yeah, got himself right up there in arguably top 5, top 10 type of region. And yeah, they had people talking about him potentially fighting for the title already, which is a good sign when you want fighting into the UFC. Um, so in terms of matchups going forward, obviously he wants that Poirier fight for a title, but Poirier has stated that he doesn't specifically want that right now. So maybe you give him the last guy to lose to the former champion Habib. Gaethje versus Chandler. I think that could be a fun matchup, and I think that'll let us know how he's had the top 10 level opposition test. He's passed, and I think Justin Gaethje's the logical next step, top 5.
Yeah. So, what do you think about Dan Hooker? I mean, do you think that kind of cements him as like a gatekeeper to the top 10, or do you think he could still, pick himself back up?
I would like to think that he could still pick himself back up, but it's kind of disheartening seeing him. I think after the fact he was, like throwing his gloves into the octagon, and obviously we see people have like rash, emotional, heat of the moment decisions that they'll later go back on. MMA retirements happen a lot in MMA, but yeah, I think he'll come back and fight again, and I think they should probably do him versus Kevin Lee. When Kevin Lee is fully healed from his ACL injuries, I think that's like two kind of young guys who've had ups and downs, and we're not kind of sure where they're at right now. I think that's a kind of fun fight for Dan Hooker, or if not that, I believe it's Diego Ferreira fighting Benil Dariush soon, so they could do like the loser of that fight versus Dan Hooker.
Yeah. Yeah. And then with Michael Chandler, I mean, what did you think about his post-fight speech and all that? Did you think that was a good one, or you think he was like the Ric Flair and all that?
I'll be honest, man. When I watched it, I didn't have the audio on, so I didn't actually catch what he said. But I did hear people saying that he was quoting Royal Rumble 1992 or whatever. But yeah, he's that's one thing that he's. I caught his post-fight interview, like not in the cage, but after the fact, and dude can talk the game. And he's walked the walk so far. So I think the UFC definitely like him, and I think they want to give him like all the opportunities in the world to reach the top. So I think Michael Chandler might actually board a lot better in the UFC than I initially gave him credit for. So good for him.
Yeah. And so do you think, like, what did you think about the Dustin Poirier saying he didn't want to fight Chandler? You think that, Chandler deserves the fight, or you agree with Poirier?
I would side with Poirier. I think that you know, I mean, Michael Chandler is definitely achieved good things outside of the UFC, but in the UFC, he's got one win, and Poirier has, I believe, 19. Like Poirier's, really worked for this. You've got Oliveira on like an 8 fight win streak, and Poirier stated himself that Oliveira's the more deserving man of the title shot. But I know a lot of people like to make the argument that Poirier took Hooker 5 rounds and Chandler just demolished him. So yeah, I definitely see arguments for both sides, but I think that Oliveira is the more deserving man of the title shot against Poirier.
Yeah. And then what do you think? You agree with Curry with that? You think that, that Poirier fight kind of changed Hooker? You think he's not going to be the same after that?
Yeah, well, that's like a counter argument to what I was saying about some people will say, well, Poirier took Hooker 5 rounds and Chandler smoked him in one. Well, a lot of people will say like Poirier's performance against Hooker might have contributed to how quickly Chandler got him out of there. So yeah, I think Hooker has taken a lot of damage. I mean, those 2 fights back to back with Hooker and Felder were like two crazy ass fight of the year contenders.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think give him a less. I think Kevin Lee's the one because Kevin Lee's a strong, physical, tough guy, but he's kind of not known for putting it on a guy for the whole 3 rounds or the whole 5 rounds. So I think that's kind of the next logical step. Yeah.
Yeah, and then now, man, we're gonna be moving into this fucking fight right here, the main event. Dustin Poirier goes in there and upsets Conor McGregor, becomes the first man to knock him out in MMA, man. And I mean, they called it a TKO, but to me, I actually thought they could have said it was a clean knockout. But man, I mean, McGregor probably wins the first round. He lands the cleaner shots, but Dustin, was able to kind of implement what he wanted to do. He took him down. He controlled him against the cage for probably about 2-3 minutes. And then, man, he started landing a couple of those leg kicks in the first round. You could tell they kind of took their toll in that second round. Man, that knockout was nasty, right? I mean, he caught him against the cage flat. And, I think he hurt him with the check right hook right before and then put that combo on him, landed that, that right hook and knocked him out. It was a switch stance right hook. So it was really nasty the way that he did it. And, man, I mean, probably one of the, biggest wins in MMA history. That's probably going to go down, as a one of the biggest moments. And Dustin redeemed himself, man. He probably cemented himself as, one of the best fighters in UFC history. So what did you think about, the whole fight?
Yeah, absolutely crazy. I had Conor winning this one leading into it. I thought he would, he's done it before. He'll do it again kind of situation and wrote off, how hard Poirier's been working all this time while Conor's kind of been away. So yeah, Poirier, like you said, Conor came out there probably 10-9 for him. Poirier did get the good takedown, and he was landing the calf kicks. Putting in the work that paid dividends later. And then yeah, once he got him hurt into the leg in that latter second round, and then swarmed him up against the cage. The writing was on the wall. I remember saying at the time, I was like, oh my god, Dustin Poirier's gonna knock him out, and then he switched the stance and he hit him with the right and dropped him. And I absolutely agree. That was not a TKO. It was a knockout. I think they've released footage of a better angle that was floating around on Twitter today, and kind of looked like the right hand that he hit him with after he went down put him out, and then the left might have woke him back up. That's how it looked to me. And I mean, yeah, like Dustin Poirier has been grinding for years and definitely the biggest win of his MMA career thus far, and nothing but huge things going forward for him now.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about that, man? I mean, Dustin, now he could say he's the first person to, really, I mean, he's the first, only person maybe you could say that's really hurt Max really bad on the feet, dominated him, the first person to finish Max Holloway, and now he's the first person to TKO Conor McGregor. So, I mean, you can't really say much else about Dustin, man. I mean, I think he cemented himself as, one of the best of all time. But some people are going to come in here and say, that Conor, is overrated. He never was that good at 155. So, do you think it's, do you actually think Conor is like a huge win, or do you think he's like an overinflated win because of the name value?
Honestly, I feel like it's kind of a somewhere in between type of situation. I just think that, winning against Conor, you're always going to kind of catapult yourself forward because of the type of following that he brings. But at the same time, you can't take away from Poirier's performance. I mean, by all accounts, Conor's trained harder than he's ever trained for longer than he's ever trained. And those are literally the words of his own coach. So, nothing but credit to Poirier going in there and picking up, I think that's his third rematch in a row he's won, undefeated in rematches still. And yeah, like still can't believe it. If Poirier had got him into those latter rounds, got him tied and submitted him, I wouldn't have been surprised at all. But the way that fight ended was, pretty much shocking. We've seen Conor eat big shots before from Nate Diaz, but we've always kind of seen him shoot in those scenarios and then find himself in a bad position on the mat and go out that way. We've never seen him actually get knocked out cold before. So yeah, it was pretty damn shocking, and congrats to Poirier.
Yeah, man. And then with Connor, I mean, what do you think? I mean, some people are calling for him to retire, but to me, I mean, I feel like he still has, he made a lot of money for that fight. He got, I think, 5 million with his flat rate, and then you got another probably close to 20 million with the pay-per-view sales. So that's just a lot of money. Even if you're that rich, it's a lot of money to just turn down. And he's not old, so I think he still likes competing too. And man, I feel like he could still come out there, and I want to see some of these fights that have been, rumored for years, man. I mean, I feel like now he's at a point where he was chasing the title for so long, right? Where it's like it was hard to put him in these type of fights, but now I think you could easily put him in a main event with a guy like a Nate Diaz 3, a Tony Ferguson. So those fights, to me, I still would really want to see that. So what do you think? I mean, what do you think would be the best matchup for him coming back? Because I know he wants the rematch, but to me, I just don't think that's probably the smartest thing to do.
Yeah, well, I think, the rematch is something that I think the UFC will kind of entertain because of Conor and the name value. But if they were to put a belt on that, there's no way that they can have a championship fight with one half of the championship fight coming off of a KO loss. That makes no sense to me. So honestly, from like a hardcore fan perspective, I think Conor losing might actually be like the best thing for the division because it actually opens him up to so much more matchups like going forward. Because if he were to win, there would be talks of Habib, and pretty much that's it. But now we've got Conor and Gaethje, a potential matchup, or Conor and Tony, Conor and Diaz 3, even Conor and Masvidal, which honestly I don't think makes that much sense. And I think if they were to do McGregor and Masvidal, I would rather see both guys coming off of a win. I think it would be like so much more hype added on top of that. So I mean, I think the Diaz 3 trilogy is like long overdue. I've been complaining about it for years. So I think that's like a now or never situation for that. They should do it now because there's never been a better time. Both guys coming off of a loss, and yeah, need to get that one done.
So would you want that one to be at 55s?
Yeah, I think one apiece at 170. I think it makes sense for them to do it at 155. The big X factor in that is, will Nate want to cut to 155? I think that's one of the bigger questions.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Nate, though, he's been talking about fighting lightweights. I mean, I saw like Dustin Poirier called out Nate. It's weird. It's funny, right? It's like these certain guys, even Connor's one of these guys too, but Nate, they could stick in, they could like stick around in the talks, even for the title talks, and to get these huge fights, and they're not even competing at the weight class. They're not even really relevant for what they're doing, in recent years. It's more like, it's like cachet and relevance from the past, where they know where the money is, and like I feel like Dustin at this point, like he had some great quotes, like we were talking about. He didn't want to fight Chandler. You're saying like I think you said this one where you're saying he would rather just go sell hot sauce than fight Michael Chandler. So I think he
Yeah.
wants to fight, Conor McGregor again. He wants to fight a Nate Diaz where he could make, another big payday. Because at this point, it's like we were saying, I feel like besides being the official champion, he's really accomplished everything he had to do in MMA. I mean, he's beaten some legends. He's won the, interim belt. So now he's defeated Conor McGregor, came back, avenged that loss. So it's like, I think at this point, he kind of cares more about just legacy fights, making some money. And I think he deserves it. So, yeah, even if he got to fight a guy like Nate Diaz next, I know a lot of people would, bitch and complain about that. But for Dustin, I mean, that would be a real good fight for him monetarily and probably, a good matchup, obviously. So, I mean, I wouldn't be really seriously shocked if they did something like that. But man, I mean, yeah, like Conor McGregor, I do feel like the fight with Nate or a fight with Tony would probably be the fights that I want to see. And then Dustin, I mean, I feel like Duke Bronx is probably the most worthy guy to get the title shot, but I just don't know if the UFC would do that. I'm not sure if they would want to put that as a main event, but yeah, I mean, what do you think? You think that they would give Duke Bronx the title shot?
I think that if you're looking at like merit, who deserves it most, I think Oliveira deserves it most. Do I think he's the most likely to get it? No, I don't. In fact, I think that they would actually want to angle more for the Chandler fight, probably. But it's as like you're talking about Nate there, and I'm thinking about it. It's kind of crazy because the winner and loser of the last main event, Nate's like Nate can disappear for 3 years, come back, go 1-1 at welterweight, and we're like kind of interchanging him with both the winner and loser of Saturday night. He could have the trilogy with McGregor to settle that one, or he could fight for a title against Poirier. And yeah, like you said, a lot of people would moan and bitch, but the UFC would just look at the numbers, and that would be that.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of like interesting shit happened off that card. Like you're saying, it's like Conor McGregor losing almost opened up more options. So, yeah, man. I mean, great card overall, and I like the show, man. I mean, thanks for coming on for sure. So, you want to tell everyone, where they could find you at?
Yeah, it's just Jack Attack MMA on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you MMA Prediction Guru for having me on, man. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yeah, man. So this has been UFC 257, the aftermath. Hope everyone liked it. We're gonna try to keep doing these. We might do them on Sunday, Monday. I mean, we don't really have a date exactly when we're gonna do it, but just pretty relatively close to after the event. So yeah, man. If you guys like this, put a comment down below. Drop a like on it, and make sure to subscribe to Jack Talk MMA. It was really cool for him to come on. So yeah, guys. Thanks, guys, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Peace.